In Palestine, thousands of displaced people began to return to their homes in the north of the devastated Gaza Strip after Israel opened the Netzarim corridor. A new caravan of migrants departed from the northern border of Mexico to the United States in search of the so-called American dream. And the Argentinian Circulo Podemos will file a complaint Monday against President Javier Milei for several crimes related to public intimidation and threats. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR Studios in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin with the news. Stay with us. In Palestine, thousands of displaced people began to return to their homes in the north of the devastated Gaza Strip after Israel opened the Netzarim corridor. Most of the displaced people returned on foot through Al-Rashid, a street of at least 7 kilometers that stretches from the south to the north of the Strip and that has witnessed dozens of massacres during the 470 days of the conflict. The ceasefire agreement between Hamas and resistance movement and Israel came into force on January 19th and establishes that the Gazans will be able to cross the Netzarim corridor to return to the north of the Palestinian enclave from Sunday. As of October 7th, 2023, the Zionist forces of Israel caused the displacement of more than 85% of the citizens of Gaza in the midst of a massive and unprecedented destruction of infrastructure and property of citizens.
Es una sensación grandiosa cuando regresas a casa.
It's a great feeling when you come home to your family and see your house, if you still have one.
Tienes una casa allí.
Meanwhile, thousands of people are still waiting off Saladino Street to gain access to the northern Gaza Strip and return to their homes.
We are sitting here until they open the road for us and we return to our homes. Children slept in the cold. We dismantled the wood from the tent and lit a fire with it to warm ourselves. We were waiting for this moment for Gaza and to go back to it. Last night was very tough. The cold was very intense. We are waiting here until they open the road. We return to our homes in the north of the Strip. I am from the Al-Shadi camp. Of course we hope to return to our homes. I have been displaced for 1 year and 3 months. We visited all the places during the period of displacement. When we heard the news that the army would not allow us to return to Gaza, we felt very sad and we hope in God that we will return to Gaza. It was a very difficult night. We were freezing cold.
My joy when I heard the news of my return to Gaza was indescribable. We want to show the enemy that we are firm and, God willing, we will be victorious. We have been here since last night, and we have been in the south for 1.5 years.
The Palestinian resistance movement Hamas announced the release of 3 Israeli prisoners in the coming days as stipulated in the ceasefire agreement. The Palestinian movement notified mediators of the list of prisoners to be handed over in exchange for Israeli troops, allowing the return of displaced Palestinians to northern Gaza. Among the prisoners is Arbel Yehud, along with 2 other detainees who will be released this Thursday, January 30th. An additional 3 detainees will be released on Saturday, February 1st. Israel is expected to free 400 Palestinian prisoners on Saturday as well. In Palestine, hundreds of Gazans are going on a long and exhausting journey to return to their homes in the northern Strip. Let's see the following coverage of our collaborator, Huda Hegazi.
Finally, the most expected time has arrived since the truce and the end of war were proclaimed in the Gaza Strip, the time in which Gazans could go home to the northern area. I am now at the Netzarim checkpoint, which split the north from the south in the Gaza Strip, that today at 7 a.m. in the morning Israeli forces have withdrawn to allow Gazans return home. As we can see on this path, the journey will be by foot. Gazans have arrived very early in the morning at this place to go to the northern area. And even as we can see here, there are drums of water provided by the International Red Cross for people to drink, because the journey is very exhausting and long. And so despite this, Gazans are not afraid and assured that they will do everything at their hands to go finally to their homes, even though the journey be complicated. We have to say that at this checkpoint, they will allow the exit and return of Gazans, so those Gazans from the south could go to the north, and those from the north could go to the south, and even to the center. And the journey, the path is partially opened, and as we can see, the joy of Gazans is unspeakable. So at the end, they will finally go to their homes, to the northern area, which they have been deprived of for 15 months.
The city of Gaza is my life. It is everything to me. It is true that a lot of destruction and a lot of work awaits us, but it doesn't matter. Even if I have to pitch a tent where my house used to be, the important thing is that we are back.
Thank Allah we are back, but the truth is that we are very tired. If Allah helps us, I will soon be back home. We wanted to come back a long time ago, but it hasn't been possible until now. I want to return home, to my land, with my people.
As we have heard, Gazans are very happy to return to the northern area finally, and they assured that this is a historical day for the history of Palestine, in which they finally could go to the northern area, that area that they have been able to go since the genocidal war of Israel. And they assure that despite destruction and the losses of all their belongings and houses, they assure that they will go there and rebuild everything the Israeli army has destroyed since the onset of war.
In Sudan, Army Chief Abdel Fattah al-Burhan visited the recaptured military headquarters in downtown Khartoum. This was the military leader's first appearance since government forces claimed to have broken a month-long siege by the Rapid Support Forces. Accompanied by senior military commanders, Burhan prized the resilience and sacrifices of soldiers who defend the army's general command for 20 months and vowed to eradicate the paramilitary forces. The war, triggered by a power struggle between the army and the RSF, has killed tens of thousands of displaced people, displacing millions and plunged the country into a humanitarian crisis.
The Sudanese people stand behind the army, and we are all witnessing now how the entire people is supporting us in this battle. This battle is nearing its end, and these rebels, the Rapid Support Forces, shall cease to exist. We pledge to the Sudanese people that we'll keep fighting until we achieve this.
And now we have a short break coming up, but first remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates and more. We'll be right back, stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. The Russian government has stated that any Western force sent to Ukraine without Moscow's approval would become a legitimate military target. Russian authorities denounced that the proposal for the creation of the so-called peacekeeping forces in Ukraine is aimed at preventing Kyiv from suffering further defeats while maintaining its position of not negotiating with Moscow. The Russian statements come in response to a proposal made by the European Union Military Committee that a ceasefire in Ukraine should be imposed with the intervention of so-called peacekeepers. These statements are in line with calls by the Kyiv government to deploy at least 200,000 European troops to force Moscow to halt its special operation to demilitarize Ukraine. In southern Poland, a tremor in a coal mine in the city of Radlin killed one worker and injured 11 others. This Monday, Polish mining group PGG reported a tremor at a depth of 800 meters. According to the mining company's report, 29 employees were in the area of the incident. After rescue work, the 11 injured were taken to the nearest hospital. In this context, the head of the Emergency Medical Services of Katowice said that at least 4 of the injured are in serious conditions. Authorities added that work continues to determine the total damage and secure the area. A new caravan of migrants departed from the northern border of Mexico to the United States in search of the so-called American dream. Close to 3,000 foreigners left Tapachula, Chiapas, after President Trump canceled the CBP-1 application last Monday. The migrants seek to move forward in the hope of being allowed to cross into the United States, and in case they cannot cross, they want to reach Mexico City or Monterrey to look for jobs. With only a week as head of state, Donald Trump ordered several measures against illegal migration, among them deportations, while Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum opened the possibility of regularizing foreign migrants or repatriating them. The President of Mexico, Claudia Sheinbaum, announced having submitted a proposal for reforming the Constitution to safeguard 59 corn breeds and ban the sowing of genetically modified corn.
Today, here in Puerto Escondido, I would like to inform you that the constitutional reform for safeguarding our corn has already been sent to the Congress of the Union. It is a reform to Article 4 and Article 27 of the Constitution, which establishes corn as a national identity, an element of national identity, and concurrently, the prohibition to plant transgenic corn in our country, and to ensure that it is through agroecological techniques, that is, free of transgenics.
Es decir, libre de transgénicos.
Likewise, the head of state, Claudia Sheinbaum, emphasized that corn is a Mesoamerican heritage that has fed millions of people inside and outside of Mexico.
It's
59 breeds that have been found so far, which are a fundamental element of our country, of our history, of our people. They had been created here, in Mesoamerica. This marvelous Mesoamerican plant stemmed from wild plants, such as the teocintle, which we, Mexicans, domesticated, and we feed with it, and a good portion of the world feed with it as well.
De la cual nos alimentamos las y los mexicanos, y también una buena parte del mundo.
Nearly 1,000 people have been arrested in the United States for allegedly being in the country illegally amid mass deportation of migrants. According to the United States Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, the raids took place this Sunday in cities such as Chicago, Denver, and Dallas, where people will be examined to determine their immigration status. At least 1,300 people have been arrested and deported from the United States in the first wave of immigration raids. In response to the measures imposed by the Trump administration, thousands of people have gathered in several U.S. cities to protest against his immigration policies. U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said Monday that the military will keep assisting President Donald Trump's mass migrant deportations. Hegseth confirmed by Republicans despite concerns over his inexperience and alleged record of heavy drinking and domestic violence is one of Trump's most contested cabinet picks. The former news host made clear that he will work to carry out the president's hard-right agenda. Hegseth added that more executive orders are coming on, removing diversity, equity, and inclusion programs from the Pentagon and reinstating troops who were pushed out because they failed to comply with COVID-19 vaccine mandates.
Support of mass deportations in support of the president's objective. That is something the Defense Department absolutely will continue to do. And today, there are more executive orders coming that we fully support on removing DEI inside the Pentagon, reinstating troops who were pushed out because of COVID mandates, Iron Dome for America. This is happening quickly. Our job is lethality and readiness and warfighting. We're going to hold people accountable.
We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English, there you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Find a short break, don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. In Venezuela, the National Electoral Council announced that this year's parliamentary and regional elections will be held on April 27th. The president of the electoral body, Elvis Amoroso, said that the electoral process includes the election of deputies to the National Assembly, governors and legislators for the legislative councils of each state of the country. Amoroso also detailed that in the next hours, the electoral timetable will be published, which establishes processes such as nomination, acceptance and candidacies and the beginning of campaigns. Likewise, the National Electoral Council assured that they will guarantee to all political parties the highest reliability, transparency and corresponding audits in accordance with the provisions of the laws of the country.
El Consejo Nacional Electoral convoca.
The National Electoral Council
que comprende elecciones para diputados y diputadas a la Asamblea
calls for a comprehensive electoral process.
Día 27 mes abril del año 2025.
That includes elections for members of the National Assembly on 27 April 2025. And elections for state governors and members of state legislative councils on April 27, 2025.
Del mes de abril del año 2025.
The Argentinian Circulo Podemos will file a complaint Monday against their president Javier Milei for several crimes related to public intimidation and threats. According to the details of the lawsuit, the Argentinian president will further be charged before the courts for instigating crimes and violating the laws stipulated in the country against discrimination. The complaint was initiated after Javier Milei issued a series of threats and the derogatory comments from the United States and Switzerland against left-wing militants. On his comments, Milei stated that he will look for any leftist people with the goal of exterminating them. Public Argentinian workers are expecting a new wave of layoffs by the Milei's administration. Employees denounced that the Argentinian government is preparing to reduce public sector expenses by up to 30% with minimum allocations. Such a coercive policy will be pursued at the brink of the campaign for legislative elections. The State Workers Association, presided by Rodolfo Aguiar, indicated that the state union will oppose the adjustment by the Ministry of Deregulation and Transportation. The movement recalled that President Milei has been renewing the 2023 public budget for 2 time periods, which led in 2024 to some 36,000 workers' layoffs due to the lack of updating and policy of dismissals. We have come to the end of this news brief, but remember you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net and join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram and TikTok as well. And in the last minutes, we left you with music as a way to express the rejection of Trump's policies against the immigrant population. For English, telesur English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.
Ya me gritaron 1000 veces que regrese a mi tierra.